Slave Owners by Kunal and Kyle. Slaves have been working for white colonists for a long period of time. The colonists or slave owners would make them work for long hours on the plantations. As we know, the slaves were brought from Africa to work in America. The slavery mostly was in the southern areas. In this project, we're going to be talking about the slave owners. Slave owners were impolite and mean to most of their slaves. They treated them extremely badly and were not very nice to them. They did not let them have their own pleasure time and did not let them sing spirituals, which they enjoyed doing. Drivers would whip them if they found any slaves that were out after the time they were supposed to be. "88% of slave owners had less than 20 slaves. Only 12% had more than 20 slaves. Those were more of the rich type of slave owners. Most of the slave owners had to help their slaves in the field sometimes, and they were in shortage of slaves."
The white man's happiness cannot be purchased by the black man's misery. This quote was said by Frederick Douglass. Punishment. Some punishment that the slave owners gave to their slaves was whipping. They would give the practical slave's family less food even though only one slave committed the crime. The whole family was made to pay for it.
Good and bad slave owners. There is no such thing as good and bad slave owners. The slave owners had total control over their slaves and could treat them in any way that they wanted to. Most slave owners took advantage of this and whipped their slaves whenever they were unhappy with their work. Slaves could do nothing but obey.
Then comes the Civil War. The Civil War was the time that all slaves were granted freedom. This was only because of the hard work of some blacks and northerners. They used the Underground Railroad to reach the northern nearby country, Canada. They were free from the cruel and unforgiving slave owners, but after the Civil War it was not that great for the blacks. They were not treated all that well. There were few places where only blacks were allowed to go.
Thank you for watching our project. We appreciate your kindness.